We've all been there, right? You're kicking back on the couch, maybe having a little chocolatey treat, and you look down and there they are. Those big, soulful eyes just staring up at you, begging for a tiny bite. It's so hard to say no. But when it comes to chocolate, sharing with our pets is one of the worst things we can possibly do.
So let's just cut right to the chase with a question every pet owner needs to know. Can this treat that we love so much actually be fatal for our cats and dogs? Well, the short answer is yes. A big, definitive yes. But the real question is why? Let's get into it.
All right, first things first, we're gonna dig into the science here. Let's pull back the curtain on the toxic truth of what's really happening inside that chocolate bar that makes it so dangerous. So the problem really comes down to two main culprits that are naturally inside cacao beans: theobromine and caffeine. You've heard of caffeine, of course. Well, these two are what's known as alkaloids, and they basically act as stimulants. Just like your morning coffee gives you a jolt, these compounds are designed to speed things up. And here is the absolute key difference between us and our pets. Our bodies, human bodies, are super efficient at processing these things. We get a little buzz, and then our system says, okay, that was fun, and flushes it right out. But for dogs and cats, it is a totally different ballgame. Their metabolism is incredibly slow with these compounds. It's like a traffic jam in their system, allowing these stimulants to just build and build and build, all the way up to toxic levels. And when that toxic buildup happens, well, the symptoms can get scary fast. It might start off looking like a simple upset stomach, some vomiting or diarrhea. But from there, it can escalate to severe restlessness, hyperactivity, and in the absolute worst-case scenarios, it can cause heart failure or even be fatal.
Now, you've probably heard way more stories about dogs getting into the chocolate stash than cats, and there's a good reason for that. Dogs just have a natural sweet tooth. They're drawn to those sweet, fatty things. Cats, on the other hand, they actually can't taste sweetness, so they're not usually tempted. But, and I really need you to hear this, if a curious cat does eat some, it is just as toxic and just as incredibly dangerous for them.
So we know it's dangerous, but the next question is, how dangerous? Because, believe it or not, the risk isn't always the same. This is where we get into what we can call the danger scale. The actual level of danger in any situation really boils down to three main things. You've got to consider the type of chocolate they ate, the size of your pet, and of course, how much they actually managed to get. Let's tackle that first one, the type of chocolate. Because not all chocolate is created equal when it comes to toxicity, not even close. White chocolate has the least amount of the bad stuff, so it's the least dangerous. Milk chocolate is kind of in the middle. But the real villains of this story, that's going to be your dark chocolate and especially unsweetened baker's chocolate. They are absolutely loaded with the highest, most toxic levels of theobromine. And this is the part that gets really sobering. Check out this number, 28 grams. That's just 1 ounce. Think about a single square of a baker's chocolate bar. For a medium-sized dog, that tiny amount is enough to cause severe, life-threatening symptoms. Now take that exact same 28 grams, that one little square, and think about what it could do to a cat. Because they're so much smaller, that same amount can be absolutely deadly. The margin for error here is practically zero. Okay, knowing the risks is half the battle. The other half is knowing exactly what to do if the unthinkable happens. So let's quickly run through a super simple but absolutely vital emergency playbook. First, and this is so important to remember, the symptoms are not immediate. It can take anywhere from 6 to 12 hours before you even see anything wrong. And once the symptoms start, they can last for up to 72 hours. That's 3 whole days. This is exactly why a wait-and-see approach is the worst thing you can do. This brings us to the single most important piece of advice in this entire explainer. If you even think your pet might have eaten chocolate, do not hesitate. Don't waste time on Google, just pick up the phone and call your veterinarian immediately. It is always, always the right first move. And while we're talking about keeping our pets safe, it's worth a quick reminder that chocolate isn't the only troublemaker hiding in our kitchens. You've also got to watch out for things like grapes and raisins, onions and garlic, anything with caffeine or alcohol, and even foods that are just way too salty or sugary for them. It really all boils down to one super simple, foolproof rule. If you're ever in doubt, just don't do it. Stick to the treats that are made specifically for them. It is the easiest and the absolute best way to avoid a terrible accident. So the final takeaway really couldn't be clearer. It's summed up perfectly right here. When it comes to sharing chocolate with pets, keep it to yourself.
A little bit of caution on our part makes all the difference for them.
At the end of the day, keeping them safe and healthy is one of our biggest jobs as pet owners. And that leaves us with one last important question to think about. Looking beyond just food, what other things can we do to make our homes even safer for our four-legged family members who trust us with everything?